Welcome to Inside the Capitol. I'm Jason Atkins.
And I'm Maggie Hangy.
This week on our show, Big Tech is big mad, and the bishops come to the Capitol to meet with Governor Walz and legislative leaders. Maggie, but first, share a little bit about an awesome dynamic and development at the Capitol this week. The Stop Harms of Addictive Social Media bill, Shazam, is moving forward. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, it was a great week. It had a committee hearing. We had some awesome testifiers, parents and students come and testify as to why social media needs to be regulated. Parents should know that their kids want to be on social media, and social media should be less addictive. So by design. And so they came to the Capitol. We had a great hearing, unanimous bipartisan support during that hearing. There was a great exchange between a few of the legislators just sharing their support for, like we said, regulating social media and helping save kids and from this falling into this addiction. So we were really pleased with that. It's moving forward. It's gonna get another hearing in the coming days. So we're excited to see what happens. This is something we've been working on, trying to protect kids. And so it's great to see a win happen with bipartisan support.
And Maggie, remind our viewers what specifically the bill does. How does the bill protect kids from harmful and addictive social media?
Yeah, so first it would require verifiable parental consent so that parents consent to their kids being on the platform, and there are ways with the technology to be able to do that. And the second thing, after the parents provide consent, all social media accounts for kids under 16 would have to be by design less addictive. So that means things like infinite scrolling, just being able to scroll without any stops, the autoplay video that just plays one after the other, targeted advertising, some of these things that are on our platform, and because these companies, they want to keep us on the platform, some of the features that help keep us on the platform and create that addictive environment would be prohibited for child accounts. So we hope that this would help lessen some of the addictive nature of the social media accounts. And then if kids are online for less amounts of time, they're less susceptible to harm, they're protected from the mental health struggles, or at least those are lessened. So we think that having the twofold approach, the parental consent so they at least know where their kids are, and then also making sure that kids are kept safe if they do get that consent to be on social media, really evens out the playing field.
And social media companies know who's on their platforms.
Yes.
That's how they monetize the platform. They want to keep you on it longer because that's how they sell advertisements and things like that. So it's in their best interest from a profit perspective to keep people and to keep kids, especially on social media. We think it's important to put parents back in the driver's seat and give them a say about what their kids are doing online.
Right.
Yeah, parenting is important, but parents need help. That's why this bill is so important. It passed unanimously,
Yes.
I think, through House Judiciary, which was super exciting. We think that this is actually the incremental moderate approach. Some legislators want to do what Australia did, is ban social media altogether. Let's just take one step at a time and put parents back in the driver's seat. We think that's the first best step. You know, a lot of legislators came into this session feeling really down about the partisanship, thinking that there wasn't a lot that's going to get done. I think you really see in terms of online protection, bipartisan support around that. One of the really inspiring things is people say we need to do something right now. There's urgency to protect kids. So those kinds of bipartisan conversations and momentum are really encouraging to see around this initiative.
Yeah, so it was a great hearing, and we're excited to see what happens in the coming days and weeks.
Indeed. Another issue I mentioned around which there's increasing bipartisan engagement and support is the issue of data centers. You know, what are data centers? They're big buildings that have lots of tubes and wires that store data about us. They process artificial intelligence searches and do all sorts of things. But they are a looming energy threat and an environmental hazard. And so for that reason, Minnesota Catholic Conference is taking a position in support of a data center moratorium so the Public Utilities Commission can do a definitive study on their impact, especially on energy prices, water consumption. They use a ton of water that can't be put back into the ecosystem, for example. And so it's really a challenging and difficult issue, and we think we should pump the brakes on that before we create these data centers that in 10 years might be obsolete, create a massive infrastructure drain, and increase energy prices. And the idea that they create a bunch of jobs, it's temporary construction jobs. Very few people actually run these things. So it's not a big economic development initiative. Why do data centers want to come to Minnesota? Because of the cool climate and because of the plentiful amount of water that they want to use. areas. So let's pump the brakes on data centers. We're not saying no data centers long term, but let's put a moratorium until some further research can be done about their impacts on the broader community in which they serve.
Right.
Big week also, the Super Bowl of Minnesota Catholic Conference, when the bishops collectively come to the Capitol to meet with the governor and legislative leaders, which they did this week. We had meetings with Governor Walz, but also Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy and Democratic leader Zach Stevenson. So those are really productive conversations. Politics is the work of ordering our life in the city. It's a great conversation about how we build up the common good. So we all need to be at the table. We all need to be a part of that conversation. Politics is not just voting once every 2 or 4 or even every year if you get out in primaries and municipal elections, but getting out and talking to our legislators, sharing with them your perspective about how we build our common life together. And the bishops try to model that for faithful citizens by doing it themselves.
Right, and it's great to have the bishops at the Capitol they are able to interact with a lot of legislators, talk with leadership, so it's always a great day to have them walking around that building and meeting with whether it's people or legislators that they run into. So it's fun.
And Pope Francis talked about the politics of encounter.
Right.
You know, getting together with people and talking face to face, trying to build bridges of understanding, trying to understand the values that each side is bringing into a conversation. That's really done old school, person to person, in that human relational context. So I think these meetings are always valuable. They really do move the needle. We were disappointed to hear from Governor Walz yesterday that he's not supportive of Minnesota opting in to the federal scholarship tax credit, but he did make a point of saying that his position has moved on online sports gambling, and he is now opposed to that. And we think that's a great and outstanding development. And that's the give and take
Right.
of this process. Is you're not always going to find agreement, but you build relationships, you build dialogue, and we have to believe in the work of reason and persuasion. There's no alternative. And so we have to keep doing that. We have to play our part. We have to elevate the debate as Catholics and be good contributors to that discussion.
Right, and these can't be one-time conversations. We actually have to be in relationship with these legislators. That's why every year the bishops come to the Capitol, and we're able to cultivate those relationships and then get movement on things that maybe we wouldn't have if we only showed up one time.
And the church can't do everything. It's not her task to win the day in the political arena as an institutional church, but it is the responsibility of the laity to bring the gospel principles into the public square. So the bishops, we identify important public policy initiatives, expend resources to help drive those forward, but ultimately it's up to the people in the pew, the members of the Catholic Advocacy Network, and others to take that next step and give important issues the momentum that they need to pass. We help, again, provide a guide, inform consciences or faithful citizenship, identify key pieces of public policy so you don't have to, and then give you the opportunity to join your voice to the voice of the bishops. That's how we make an impact as a church here in St. Paul. Maggie, what else do we need to add to that conversation?
I would just say go to our website, mncatholic.org/take-action, and you can talk with your legislators through our Catholic Advocacy Network Action Center, send messages on the key issues that we're working on, some of which the bishops were talking about yesterday, and start that dialogue with your legislators if you haven't done that already.
Thanks so much for joining us on this week's edition of Inside the Capitol. Next week when we join you, we'll be right up the day before bill deadlines, when bills have to make it through have to have one positive action in each house, that's policy bills, to survive in the legislative process. Although sometimes the legislative process is a little bit about like the Pirates Code. There are more suggestions. Nothing's really done until the legislature adjourns. At the same time, though, these are important. It's an important marker next week, and so we'll be able to update you on what looks to be moving forward and what's stopped up in the process. Right. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jason Atkins.
And I'm Maggie Hange.
Appreciate you watching Inside the Capitol next week. We'll see you again next week.